Hey, I'm Jamie Yukas, and this is Nick News, the show that informs you, guides you, and hopefully inspires you to take action. The foundation of a nation, infrastructure. Infrastructure is what keeps a country operating smoothly, like roads, bridges, sewer systems, parks, and the internet. Anything and everything that people use every single day. Infrastructure helps the country's economy, yet most people don't really think about it, unless it's not working. That's where the new infrastructure bill comes in. Nick News reporter Rory Hu traveled to Wisconsin with Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, who met with future infrastructure workers.
On a chilly spring day in Coloma, Wisconsin, we're at Operating Engineers 139 Training Center. The 400-acre center trains people who want jobs in operating crazy cool machines like cranes, bulldozers, and excavators. We tagged along with around 800 Wisconsin high schoolers who are interested in landing jobs in this field and who wanted to meet the center's special guest, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg.
I have one of the best jobs in America. I get to be the Secretary of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The roads that you took to get here were put in by members of the operating engineers. And if you're here, you're not just somebody who might be using this infrastructure. You're somebody who might be building this infrastructure.
Secretary Buttigieg is a big deal. He was mayor of his hometown in South Bend, Indiana, served in the U.S. Navy, ran for president against Joe Biden, and in 2021 was sworn in as the country's Secretary of Transportation. He now lives and works in D.C. with his husband Chasten and his twin children.
Why did you come all the way here to Coloma, Wisconsin?
We need to have a lot of skilled, trained construction workers who are going to help build all of the roads and bridges and airports. We're going to spend the whole decade doing some of the biggest and most involved investments that we've done since the 1950s. And I wanted to meet people who are young and help inspire them to consider a career in the construction trades.
It's not hard to feel inspired at the center, especially when we got to try out virtual simulator excavators, learn how to drain fluids from truck engines, and even get a tutorial from Secretary Buttigieg himself.
Slow, nice, easy movements. Now you lower it and then you scoop it at the same time.
Secretary Buttigieg's goal in Wisconsin was to excite kids like Antonio,
We count on folks like you to pick up these jobs because we got a lot of building to do in the next few years.
who got to operate an excavator for his first time.
How'd you feel operating the excavator?
Nervous. It felt like I was going to push myself over at one point.
And Bailey, who's known she's wanted to work in infrastructure since day one.
How would you describe how you feel when you're operating this heavy machinery?
Fulfilled. It's not like the adrenaline rush that you get when you play a video game.
Secretary Buttigieg's mission to inspire kids to get involved in this industry is because his big boss, President Joe Biden, recently passed a major law that gives the secretary a lot of money to improve America's infrastructure. I wanted to learn more, so I met up with him at his office at the Department of Transportation in Washington, D.C.
President Biden recently signed this infrastructure bill into law, and it's $1 trillion. So that's like 12 zeros. So what is all this money going to be used for?
This is a huge country, and we have a lot of things that need work. A lot of our bridges have gotten into bad shape because they haven't been repaired in a very long time.
On the American Society of Civil Engineers 2021 report card, the organization gave America's infrastructure a C- and found 43% of the country's public roads are in poor or mediocre condition.
What are some of the impacts that we are already seeing 1 year in of the infrastructure law?
Communities across the country are bringing in their plans for what they want to do. So let's imagine you live in a town that has an issue with a crossing that's not very safe. And someone had the idea to design it in a way that it would be safer, maybe with better lights. Those ideas happen locally. And what we're doing is we're sending the funds out so that, let's say, a mayor can take those funds and then actually hire the workers who are going to put in that new light.
Secretary Buttigieg says the $1 trillion he's working with is also meant to help millions of Americans access clean drinking water and high-speed internet and help in our fight against global warming.
So how do you think the infrastructure law can impact climate change?
Climate change is caused by carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. And a lot of that carbon dioxide comes from transportation. So part of what we're doing is helping to invest in technologies that are cleaner. We're helping cities buy buses that run on electricity instead of diesel, so there's no exhaust, which means less carbon dioxide, less global warming.
As if the secretary wasn't in charge of enough, after our interview, he walked me over to another room that holds top secret information.
So this is called the Transportation Operations Center. Over on that wall, we have a map that shows us the location of every ship that we're tracking in the Atlantic Ocean. And over on this side, that's our national airspace. So every dot on that map is the real location of an airplane right now.
How many airplanes do you think are in the US skies like right now?
There are thousands in the air at any given time. That's one of the reasons why it's important to be able to keep track of them. So if there's an issue, we have real-time, immediate information that we can access from right here in the center.
This is like a really restricted area. Not everyone can come in here.
And it's true, we're giving you a behind-the-scenes look. And there are even some spaces nearby where you're not allowed to bring in a cell phone to make sure that no information comes in or out that isn't supposed to.
What's the most exciting thing you've seen happen here?
Well, let me think about what I can talk about. I gotta be careful with that. If there's a war happening, we have to make sure that everybody is safe in the American transportation system. That's an example of the kind of information that gets handled at a facility like this.
As I was absorbing all the important stuff that happens in the center and getting ready to leave, I couldn't help but notice this bizarre-looking employee.
I wanted to make sure you see another important part of safety, which is we use crash test dummies like this to simulate car crashes and then use that information to make cars safer.
I can't believe I didn't notice that before. And now I'm like,
Well, they are very realistic and you can blend right in.
Who knew the Secretary of Transportation's job could be so wide-ranging? And while working next to this dummy was super cool, the most memorable moment was back in Wisconsin, where he taught me how to operate the center's awesome excavator.
I'm Rory Hu, digging dirt with the Secretary of Transportation. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Rory.